In this video, I wanted to look at a few more of the HTML input types. So I've in previous videos looked at the button and text and number and range, and I also have things on checkboxes and radio buttons. And then I just want to look at a few more. I also have I think the date one, the color one, and so on. But there were a few more. Now, a bunch of them deal with work in conjunction with like testing a pattern and in conjunction with, say, I'm in a form and I'm going to submit the form on that data to some server. So with some kind of submit button. So I'm in a form, and so I'm not going to do those in this video. So like down here in this list, you see there is sort of email, and then I think there was URL and ones like that. So those are, and I think was telephone. So those are going to compare with the user input to some pattern, and then sort of either stay put if the pattern doesn't match or go on to the server. But I didn't want to, in this video, worry about a form and going to a server. So those won't appear in this video, but I am going to look at a few of the others that are just sort of a little bit more unusual than just text, number, button. So here we go. Okay. So now I told you what I'm not going to look at. Let's tell you what I am going to look at. So what am I looking at here? I'm going to look at a time. I think in a previous one, I looked at a date. I'm going to look at a time, and then down later, I'm going to look at a date time. So I'm going to look at the time type, and then down here, the date time local type. I'm going to look at the password type, and I'm going to look at the image type. Okay, well, let me show you the page, then you'll see what we're doing, and then we'll just look at a bit of the code. So I'm going to open that with the live server. And here is my page. So the first one was time. So it gives you sort of for free this way to enter a time. So I can choose, and it, this interface comes sort of automatically, and it also knows the current time. So I can choose a later time, and I can also choose an earlier time. I'm going to choose a later time, 8:41. Okay. And then that's just sort of on the page, on the interface. And then if I enter that time, converts it more to what I'll call a military time. So sort of go up to like 23. So it adds 12 to the hours if it's in the PM. If it were in the AM, of course, it wouldn't do that. So if it were 8:41 AM and I enter the time, it would just be 8:41. But if it's PM, then it adds the 12. I'm not. So the password is just a simple thing that it displays. It does not display what the user's typing. So the user is typing some password. It's just giving you some generic character, like it here, it looks like a dot. And then, but sort of behind the scenes, you get just the regular text. So just a way, sort of, when you're making an interface to not display what the user's typing, but then what comes over to you is text, and you could just, on the code side, you could just handle it like it's regular text. So I, as a user, typed swordfish, and now here I am in code just spitting out the answer. And then my third one here is a date time. So it pops up sort of a combination of the date and the time. So let's pick don't know, Wednesday the 25th at 9:45. And then I'm just using the interface. Now I can use the event of the input, but instead I'm just my functions associated with a button. And I'm just at first just popping out what comes sort of most easily and naturally from the button. And then I have used this information to create sort of a date time and sort of spit it out in the toString. And then this last one down here, this thumbs up, is an input of the image type. And if you click it, then I'm producing some message to say, you know, thanks for the thumbs up. Okay. So I've got some styling, body colors, and label in blocks. So my labels, I had labels for all of my text inputs, or sorry, for all my inputs, sorry, not text inputs, but inputs. And I gave them all a certain width, which sort of lined up. So these labels all have the same width, and that gave me some sort of alignment. Now I didn't fix these things to have a fixed width. So these widths vary depending on what's going into them. So there's less width for a time than for a date time. Okay, so I didn't try to control that. Here was my time input. And again, so I left it. And then here is me saying here's the button, adding the click event for clicking that first button. And then I am just getting the value and then putting it on the page. So that whole timing interface, that was just sort of default built in by the browser. Nothing I did other than saying I have wanted an input of the time type. Here is my input of the password type, and that was enter data 2, and I just grabbed the value and then put it on the page. So again, the sort of that I was hiding what the user typed in the input, that just came for the by calling it the password type. I didn't have to do anything more than that. But what comes over and what one has to play with in code is just the regular text entered by the user. So it's hidden on the page, but in code, it works like normal text. Okay, so on the third one, this was the date and the time combined. I am grabbing it, and I first just alerted it. Let me bring that back. And so here, now I'm alerting it. So let me choose the 26th at 8:46. And there it is, the year dash the month as a 1 for January, and then 26, and then a capital T, and then 20:46. Okay, so again, sort of the military time. So it gives the hours and then the minutes, and it's not giving me seconds and milliseconds or anything like that. Okay. So that's what's coming out quite naturally just from having a date, time, local type. And now, and so I was just, so I just, I did just spit it out on the page, so I didn't need my alert, but so I showed you what it looked like just coming straight out of the box off using the input as designed. And then the time has a number of delimiters. Between the year and the month was a dash, between the month and the day was a dash, between the date and the time was this capital T, and between the hours and the minutes was a colon. So now I wanted to I wanted to play more with this date, so I wanted to make it a date time in code. And so I needed to get these pieces. So I used the user date time was just a string, and I'm using the split, and I'm using a regular expression split, and so that's these slashes. And I'm using a set of delimiters, and I'm using the set of delimiters we just saw, the minus, the capital T, and the colon. And then I was console logging those pieces, which I didn't show you. So if I inspect and look at the console, there are the pieces coming out. Okay. So now I want to create a date. So JavaScript has this built-in class for creating a date. And I wanted to just use a spread operator. I just wanted to say ... pieces, but that wasn't working because in the constructor of a date, the month is 0 based. So January is not 1, January is 0. So I had to explicitly write out pieces 0, pieces 1, pieces 2, so that for pieces 1, the month, I could subtract a 1 and get the right month. Okay. Then I am console logging the user's date time to, there was a method to JSON, which I didn't find very JSON-y at all. It just seemed to spit it out in a particular format, but it was I'm expecting in JSON for it to say, you know, here's the property year and here's the value of the year. I was expecting key value pairs, and I wasn't getting that. So I don't know, I was disappointed in the to JSON. But what I put on the page was just a basic to string, and that sort of displayed. And then you can get the individual pieces. If you look up the documentation for a date, you can grab all the individual things, or you can control your format. But I just did the simple to string. So the date I chose was a Thursday. Okay. And then finally, I had my input of the type image, and then there was a source, so I chose an image and gave it a size, and then I just treated it like it was a button. So I gave it a click event, and then just printed something on the page to respond to the user clicking the button. And now you can give an image a click event, but an advantage, there's not necessarily a pure functionality advantage to an input of type image, but I think there would be an accessibility benefit in that a reader would, something designed for the visually impaired, a page reader would understand that this was input more readily than if you were styling an image and adding and giving it a click event. That this was meant for the user to interact with would be probably slightly better understood by calling it an input of the image type. Okay, so I just wanted to show you quick and dirty some of the other available input types in HTML, and hopefully I'll make another video where I have a form and a server side, so I can show you some of the things like telephone and email and etc. All right, thanks for your attention.